The one and only Dominique Sachse, 24 hours, just over 24 hours, and you're going to be signing off on your last newscast.
Isn't it strange?
Oh yeah, no, it's tough.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be bittersweet for you.
It's bittersweet. I mean, it was a personal decision to move on, and sometimes you just get to that place in your life where you're ready for the next, but that doesn't mean that you're separated or disconnected from the emotion of the next. And so while I'm eager to make that pivot and that transition in my life, I am deeply going to miss this connection with the viewer, with you all. It's windy outside. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm seeing this. I'm like, whoa. Okay. But I'm going to miss this connection and the day-to-day interaction with you all. And the one thing that I can't impress enough is that Channel 2 has always been my work family. And that's what you guys feel like to me. You know, you're family. And I've forged so many amazing friendships here. So that's going to be, I think, the toughest part.
We're going to miss you so much. I mean, just when you walk in, and you see your smile and it's like, hey Dee, you know, we're going to miss you so much. And I know that everyone, our insiders are going to miss you, and they have a lot of questions about this next step and next chapter of your life. So let's just dive right in, okay?
Sure.
So our first question, insiders Linda Sasser and Leah Gray had a similar question. Is there an interview that stands out in your mind specifically as being special? And I know we're going back like over the course of 28 years.
Oh my gosh.
So many interviews, but is there one that really sort of stands out to you?
Wow. That's a really tough one to answer. I can't. Special. I mean, I think people who have left an impact, maybe it would be that, were actually recent interviews that happened. One was just the other week with Kathy Lee Gifford, who was in town for the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation. And she's just a remarkable woman. Talk about somebody who has pivoted a lot in her career.
Without a doubt.
You know, wears many hats, is a woman of faith, has been through a lot in her personal life, and yet she's so witty, so funny and charismatic, and so multidimensional in her personality. She was really a joy to interview. As was former President George W. Bush, also through the literacy program. And he has become very funny and cantankerous when you interview him. And so you almost don't know what to expect. And he's taken on this sort of demeanor where he'll sit back in the chair and he's holding the mic like this, and you know, he said something at an oil and gas convention that was so off the cuff, and there were people from England and Australia, and I guess they had an idea of how a former president would be, but he was so funny and sassy that I think they were all sort of surprised by his sort of swagger and Texas sensibility to him. So I mean, those are interesting. I'm sure there are many more that I'm forgetting about because it's hard to remember. You know, 28 years, you've talked to a lot of people.
Well, and I'm sure you've had conversations with like kids. I mean, sometimes kids make the biggest mark, you know, in their interviews. They're so funny, they're so curious. But I mean, over 28 years, you have come into contact with thousands of people.
Thousands. I mean, we used to host the muscular dystrophy telethon here on Channel 2. So when you talk about that, seeing those families and the children impacted by neuromuscular diseases, I mean, you're so right, Christine. Those are the things that really stay with you, as I know you have done with your Bells for Abigail story. So those things will never, ever leave you. And you're right, it's sometimes the interaction with just the everyday person who maybe had something to say or a life experience that really sort of rocked your world. And that's the blessing and the upside of what we do. You know, I've always said news is not about current events, it's about people. We get to tell the human condition, and those are the moments that really are impactful.
Yeah, and the ability to meet people that you otherwise would not have. And also give them a chance to voice whatever they're feeling or whatever they're working on. I mean, that's such a privilege, and I know that you feel that probably similar to that.
100%. I mean, this is such an amazing platform to get a message out, and it used to be just broadcast television, and now the world and the landscape has changed with social media, YouTube, you know, all of these different platforms to be able to present a message. And everybody gets to be a broadcaster now. You got a cell phone, you got a platform, you have an ability to present a message. And I think that's why content sharing has become such a huge thing, because it makes us all feel interconnected no matter where we are.
Yeah, you're so right, Dominique. And our next question is coming from Esmeralda Alvarado Mercado. What was the most devastating news that you can recall pertaining to Houston over your 28 years? And then what was the most exciting? I know that there's, I mean, you've covered it all.
A lot. I would say the most devastating story was the Andrea Yates story, and a mother who drowned her children, suffered from postpartum depression. It was a huge story here in Houston and nationwide. And when that broke, you know, you just sit there as a mother and you can't quite fathom what would bring you to that place. And I just remember, you know, people crying, just talking to people, and just the tears and the devastation. I mean, it's just such an unconscionable thing to happen, and to have to tell that story on the set and keep your composure when you're just welling up with tears, you know, that's a really difficult ask. And sometimes the hardest thing of what we do is you can't separate the emotionality of something, because then you become not connected to it. And so there's that fine line between being human and allowing your emotions to prevail, but also being professional and doing the job. So the Andrea Yates story was probably the most difficult one. The most joyful or fun would be back in 1994 when I was anchoring the morning show. They sent me out to Hollywood to do a behind the scenes called Assignment Hollywood. And that was a series of all the hot shows that were on NBC at the time. So it was Frasier, Wings, ER, you know, I mean, like the coolest shows with the hottest actors. And we got to go on all those sets and shoot that footage and have the interactions, you know, with the actors. And I remember I shot that with photographer Sherry Presley, and she and I, we had the best time. We came back with something like 32 beta tapes back then. 32. And I literally lived in the edit bay, and back then I would log tape, and I would log everything verbatim, word for word, and then I would also log shots and scenes, because I would write to that. And so I spent the night at Channel 2, I think for a week and a half, just to get that done. But it was incredibly thrilling, exciting, and creative for me.
You know, and your career really, technology has changed so much since when you first got into the business. You were really a time where things were evolving. So beta tapes, like journalists, new ones coming out of school, they're not even gonna know what
what's beta? Hey, I started when there was 3/4 inch tape, okay? I'm just saying, there's been a massive evolution.
I love it, I love it. Okay, so our next question comes from a KPRC2 insider. What are you gonna miss most about hosting just the daily news?
I think what I'll miss most is that again, the connection, that daily connection with you, with the viewer, and that daily connection with you, you know, my friends behind the scenes. This is a 28-year routine for me. You know, this is what I know, it's what I do, it's a part of my fabric. And I think when you let go of something, there's going to be that strangeness and awkwardness in transition, because you're letting go of a routine and what has become a large part of you. So it's that connection, but at the same time, I feel really blessed that I was able to start YouTube during this chapter. And so the connection just continues somewhere else. And what's neat about it is that it's a different format, and it's a different content, and it's content that I get to create. It's areas of interest of me and what speaks to me, as opposed to reading somebody else's content, which is what we do here. You know, we have our hands in it, we write and we dabble, but we don't necessarily decide what we cover. So that's the part that I think I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah, well, when we had talked about, we're airing your story about your book tomorrow on our newscast at 4 o'clock, but I had asked you about that sort of connection. You know, it's different than when you're sitting on the news desk, you know, talking to viewers on a newscast versus, you know, when you're able to actually reach out through your own words, through a book or through YouTube. It's a different connection.
It's different, and it's way more authentic. You know, we have those moments of authenticity here on the set, and it usually happens in tosses to weather or sports or brief moments of interaction, right? Where we get to put a little bit of ourselves in the moment, and that's how the viewer gets to know us. You know, we can throw in talks about our children, or, you know, about the city or sports, or, you know, where we grew up or where we go. And, you know, that's what entrenches you in the community, and that's what gets the viewer attached to you. They get to know you by what you reveal in those moments.
You know, you're an H-Town girl. I know that you have, I mean, your roots are so deep here, and the viewers obviously adore you, and we're going to miss you so much. And it leads to the next question. Sarah Moore wants to know, do you plan on staying in Houston?
I do. Where else would I go? This is my home. This is my home. My mother's here, you know, my family's here. My son is finishing up. He's a junior in high school. So yes, I mean, I definitely plan on being here, you know, for a while. Does that mean forever? Who knows? is. I mean, who knows what is going to happen, but I have absolutely no plans on leaving Houston anytime soon. And, we'll see. Maybe one day in my future there will be a little hut on a beach somewhere, but that's way down the road.
So we'll see her around. I'll
Right.
a little more. I don't want to say you're going to have some spare time because you got a lot going on.
I don't think I will.
It's going to be a different daily grind for you.
It will, and it's going to shift earlier. I'm looking forward to, with this job, I don't get home till 11. By the time I wind down, it's already 1 o'clock in the morning. So everything shifts late. And I'm looking forward to, maybe falling asleep at 10. No offense to the 10 o'clock news team, sorry. But, falling asleep at 10, getting up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, having things swing early, maybe getting my workout done first thing in the morning. So again, creating a new routine, something I'm looking forward to.
Okay, so our next one, we touched on this a moment ago, but Carolyn Musk asks, will you continue with your beauty tips?
Yes, that's only going to grow and expand.
Good.
The YouTube content is there to stay, and now I have more time to really cultivate and develop that. And I think also making it a more well-rounded platform. I love to do the beauty, the hair, the fashion, all of that, but it can be very limiting. You don't want to do the same thing over and over. And so, as an example, today's video that just came out at 1 o'clock today was a behind the scenes at Cirque du Soleil. They're in town, starting mid-November through January, and they gave me a behind the scenes opportunity to have one of their artists do my makeup for Cirque.
How fun.
It was the most incredible experience, and what I learned is that all of the performers do their own makeup.
How about that?
Which fascinating, and the full costume and the effect, and so that was really neat for me to bring to the platform.
But I also think what people would find interesting is that you do your own makeup every day for TV.
Sure.
People ask, who does your hair and makeup?
Right.
Well, you do it.
Right.
And you've learned as you've gone and you change, and you are like the most versatile woman I've ever met, and so talented. But I've learned tips from her, but you do your own.
Yeah, we all do, and I'm grateful for it because it's because of that we've had to learn, by trial and error to figure out what works on television, that it actually gave me content for a YouTube channel. If I had somebody doing it for me all the time, then I wouldn't know, right? So this way we learn to become makeup artists. We learn to become stylists because we've got to figure out what works well on camera, what translates well, and not everything does. And so again, trial, error, experimentation. And that also kind of plays into my mantra. And I've always been that way, even if I weren't a news anchor. It's always been for me the creative aspect of all of this. I see myself as a blank canvas every day, and it's like, what do I get to create? Do I want a lot? Do I want a little? Do I want more natural? Do I want crazy? What kind of color am I feeling? So I'm not afraid to experiment, and that's just something that I love to impart to women, is don't be afraid. Break that barrier down, and what's the worst thing that can happen?
Well, and which is the perfect segue into what exactly your book is about. April 5th is the day.
Yes.
It's less than, 5.5 months away from now.
know.
But talk about the book, because I know that insider Jeff Dunn is really curious about it, and a lot of folks are.
So the book really started to happen in October of 2018, and I just had received a lot of letters from women who were responding to my content, and they kept saying, you really ought to do a deeper dive, you ought to write a book. And I'm like, when am I going to do that? I've got all these gigs going on. But it was a beautiful October day, just like today. And I remembered sitting outside, and I had my laptop, and I just started to write, and things began to flow. And I kept going and I kept going, and I thought, okay, I've got this, now what do I do? And so I'm close to the Osteens, and Joel and Victoria have published many books. And so they connected me to their literary agent, and I talked to her, and I submitted my manuscript. And and ironically, she also was following me on YouTube, so she knew who I was, and she really liked the content. And they took me on, and they said, we really think you've got a book here. And I wrote, and we shopped it around and got a publisher. The Nelson division of HarperCollins is publishing this book.
It's amazing.
It's just amazing. And I really want to say that this book is not about me. It is about you. It's about the woman in your prime, a woman who maybe feels a little lost, maybe a little overtaken by demands, maybe is trying to define or redefine who she is. And I just use a lot of what I've learned over the years, a lot of kind of beauty from the outside in, as I call it, to help you get inside and do that deeper work to be able to transform your life, to live your best life, to live your most beautiful life, your most fulfilled life. So that's really the impetus of the book. And I just use personal examples and stories as like a thread throughout. You know, I'm always open, right? An open book myself. So I put some of that in there, but I really hope that it's joyfully received and it can help women feel better about who they are and who they want to become.
And I know there's a few secrets that readers will learn about you.
Yes.
But you're going to have to buy the book.
You're going to have to buy the book.
April 5th. There's a little pre-sales though.
Yeah. So you can pre-order from my website, which is dominiquesachse.tv, and there's a book landing page there. So if you want to go there, you can go ahead and pre-order the book as well.
Yay! We're so excited. Okay. We have a few rapid fire questions.
Okay. Oh boy.
Before we end this little conversation. The first one, what do you eat for breakfast?
Well, I don't eat breakfast, so I eat lunch, but it is breakfast. So it's always an Ezekiel muffin with an easy over egg, and I make an avocado spread. So I mash up an avocado, I squeeze a lemon, I use Kite Hill cream cheese, which is a non-dairy cream cheese, blend it all together, salt and pepper, and I have my own little egg sandwich somewhere between 12 and 1 o'clock. So that's my first meal.
Are you always so like, is it
every day?
Yeah, I'm
every day.
Okay, April Thomas wants to know, who does your wardrobe?
Me. Me.
Yeah.
We pick what we wear.
Okay, let's see. The next one is, someone's been watching you for like a decade. Okay, Insider Kathy asked about another renowned KPRC anchor. She wants to know, what will you always remember Ron Stone for?
God. Okay, so Ron Stone and Doug Johnson, the two of them were like Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. I've never seen two more witty, humorous, just crazy, off the charts people. And the stuff that they would say behind the scenes, but yet on the set, I mean, it was wild. There was like a curveball coming and you never knew where it was going and how you were going to handle it. But and also just consummate professionals, dedicated to the craft of journalism. So you had this magical combination of just incredible journalistic prowess and crazy humor at the same time, exploding.
Love it. Okay, real quick, we have time for two more rapid fire questions. Brooke Brown says, I've admired you for the past 15 years, went back to school to do what you do. What kind of first job should I apply to now?
Well, if you want to start in the business, then you've got to apply right into the business. If you want to be a broadcast journalist and your interest is television news, then start looking at TV news stations. I mean, the general path is usually starting in a smaller market and working your way up. So possibly consider markets like Beaumont, Corpus Christi, in Texas, or just small. And you can even talk to this, Christine, because you did that. My path is so atypical in this business, but a lot of people will start smaller and then just work their way up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
We're
going to miss you so much. We got to wrap because we're getting ready to do our Houston Life tease.
Yes, you are. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much. We're going to miss you. Best of luck. And tomorrow at 6 p.m. is her last show, so tune in and just send her all the love. But a big thanks to all of our KPRC2 insiders and your questions.
Thank you, insiders. Appreciate you. Thank you.